One of Singapore's most pressing problems today is our aging population. According to Statista, it's estimated that around 32% of Singaporeans will be above age 65 by 2035. One of the issues that has been repeatedly highlighted in recent years has been that of an increasingly lonely elderly population. Measures such as the Maintenance of Parents Act have been put in place to emphasize familial responsibility and to make sure that the elderly are taken care of by their families. Healthcare subsidies are also provided via ElderShield and ElderCare to ensure elderly Singaporeans have less financial strain as they age. And yet, are these measures and discourses put forth for the good of the elderly or for the good of the state? While at face value, the state seems to care by ensuring measures are taken to reduce social isolation and help the elderly fulfill their wishes, we take a deeper look into whether these rituals are merely tokenistic and reductive. What happens to people who wish to remain living alone, and how does society support these people, both emotionally and physically?
Stubborn
Fragile.
Neglected.
delusional. She likes to think that every random sound made in the house is a ghost. Like the ghost is trying to disturb her or like harm her, when it's actually just like a bird outside or something.
Maybe losing my memory or getting dementia, something like that lah.
Whether I can sustain by myself, I think at the point of age, I don't need a lot of stuff, but I just need the basic requirements. And maybe whether is there anyone to take care of me or
The physical decline. I feel like being alone or like being left behind, neglected. If it happens to other people, like there's still a possibility of it being like happening to me.
probably rising healthcare needs. If our aging, like greater number of elderlies, chances are we'll probably need more healthcare services to accommodate. Next one, probably infrastructure, I guess. Like we might need to have more or better or like elder-friendly infrastructures around.
The employability of seniors. Since the world is improving and there's a need to use technologies and everything is usually online.
Financial stability, right? Yeah, I mean like living alone means like being dependent on yourself, and like when you're age, I don't think you're able to get that financial again. I mean like people don't work also, like no one's gonna employ you, so it's like being financially stable.
You're going to survive.
Stable, yeah. Like I mean, if you're not alone also, like okay, that you have a family, it's the same thing. You still think about how else, because if all this while you've been like the one supporting or like the one being supported, then suddenly now you're aging, the more like it's more of a pressure concern, because that's the only thing you can think about.
Because with this entire situation right now with COVID and everything, recently I've been thinking a lot about like loneliness is a very big issue for them, I feel. Like not all of them, because some of them have quite like large social support, but then nowadays, because you're not allowed to interact like face to face anymore, so it's like that lack of social support could lead to even more loneliness. But even before that, the elderly are quite detached from the society. They're only mostly linked if like via their families, or like if like people in the community like seek them out and like bring them into like community work and stuff, then that's when they're more known. I mean like those lower SES like neighborhoods, maybe they're more like flagged out, but then for those like middle SES, maybe they're not so much flagged out because people will think that their family can just like socially support them, but then I mean that's not always the case lah. What? Like why would you have to live with someone?
It's a bit weird lah. It's a bit weird. As in, if they have logical explanation, then okay lah. But I don't know why, so it's a bit weird.
It makes it seem like the government doesn't think you can take care of yourself, which is quite insulting in a way, because I think most of them are very capable of taking care of themselves.
I think it's like not fair to force them to live with a stranger just to get subsidies. So doesn't mean they are old and fragile. We can just force them to live with a stranger lah. So there are like actually a lot of cases where old people in this position are being taken advantage of. So for example, I remember reading a news article about this where they steal valuables from one another, and also there's the issue of not being able to get along well together.
The fact that you have to do something in order to get a subsidy shows like how bureaucratic like the state is, and how and how scary it is. I mean, like maybe like from the state point of view, it's just like maximizing resources and like ability to like reach out to as many elderly as possible. But I think like there are other like conditions. It's like you can't expect like someone at that age to want to live with someone else. I think like ethical concerns aside, but like I feel like a person like individually, I don't think you can adapt to a person so easily.
And yet, this is precisely what the government has stipulated the elderly must do in order to get access to its public assistance subsidies, or PA subsidies for short. For those aged 60 and above, one will be required to name a roommate before being able to access such subsidies. According to a report by the Department of Statistics Singapore, there are more than 160,000 one-person households in Singapore in 2017, and more than one-third of those households belong to elderly aged 65 and above. The Singapore government depicts the elderly in a manner that raises a few questions. Why are the elderly painted as such? Is it to give them assurance that the state will take care of them? Or is it to make the government look good? While of course, social isolation can be a problem for the elderly, there's a need to question if this problem of loneliness is merely exaggerated to serve as a tool for political control. Are all the elderly really as lonely as they might seem?
So all persons alone, they have a navigation. They know what they want, and they will say. So like you students, you know what you want, right? Your mother tell you to do this course. Okay, ma. But inside, the heart is telling you leading somewhere else. So likewise, our senior singles, they know what they want, and they really, really treasure independence. For them, most of them would have had hospitalizations. They will have experienced an institution wake them up 3 a.m., take temperature, not blood. So all these are already in their database. So when they go into institutional thoughts about institutionalization, it's very fearful. I cannot get out of bed because it's scared I fall. So I have to pee on my bed. I cannot walk about. I need to smoke, but can smoke or not? So all these lifestyle changes, they cannot imagine. So we have also elderly who will fall, and we find them lying flat in the house. Is that irresponsible of a society? Is it I didn't do a good job? Because this is what you read, right? We write, we see things from our perspective. And then that's where investigative journalism, how do we get the insight, see from the other perspective, and shape people's experiences, shape people's way of thinking to be more generous, to be less prescriptive. Last year, MP office in Chai Chia, so panic. Because in their vicinity, there was a man found sleeping in the corridor, in the stairways. You're doing anything, or is it no to you? You're doing anything? How can you allow this to be happening? It was not the MP speaking, but his kind constituents raising up to him. How can leave him like that? No. So we went to see him, at which time the case was not known to me, but was already known to the nurses, and they have been seeing him in the house as well as the corridor, depending on where the wind is blowing. That day when he feels a little bit stronger, he wants to be in the corridor, we can say, uncle, it's not safe, cannot, we need to see you in the house. We don't do that. But we do talk about safety. And then single, right? Oh, staircase, oh, after he will think of killing himself, no, very easy to jump. All these polluted thoughts will come into our mind. So if the first thing I do is to say, no, this course chemistry is no good, or this course is, you switch off. I'm telling you how to lead your life. And this man, likewise, is wiser than me. He's in his 70s. He's seen the world. What his choices are, he's aware. Aware about his choice of wanting that freedom to maintain his dignity, living a carefree life. So what happened? Do you want to know what happened to this man who was living in a stairways, who was a gangster before? That he didn't want to go anywhere and remain there because he was still supporting people. You know, Uncle Gray, people give me things, you know, all the biscuits, Lion Befriender give me all this ration. I don't need. But that block there, got one auntie with a special needs child. I give to her. So now how, brother? Cannot walk already, how to give? You don't worry. I can call people one. A sick person is not only a sick person, he still has job to do. That's very important because this gives them meaning to continue. And he taught me then, how do we build roles also for other people? So we, as social worker, we don't need to always give out money. Money is the opening for conversation. So it's not about the money, but about what the money, the paper, possibilities can open for you to find out who you really are.
According to our interview with HCA representative Jacqueline, the elderly are always painted in a way which makes them seem vulnerable, frail, and almost incapable of independence, but that is not always the case. Most of the elderly cases she has worked with prove that they are capable of living alone independently without any intervention.
Maybe having like befriending programs or activities that could that the elderly could participate in. For example, volunteers can do activities with the elderly, so to prevent them from getting bored or prevent them from being lonely and all lah.
I think something that can be helpful is to like make sure like the elderly who actually need social support are getting the social support. Like it involves like the people who are like in like FSCs or like community centers to really reach out to the elderly who are living in that particular area and to like them involved in helping out with the communities. Because if you invite like the elderly to take part in like community work and like generally helping out in the community, then it sort of gives them another sense of purpose besides like having a purpose of taking care of their own family.
It's like all the simple things like making more handicap accessible areas, like especially like what's it called, the overhead bridges. To have all these things in place to like make people also be aware that there are this like there's a group of elderly living in this area, or like more hospice, more hospitals. Get people to be trained into that sector. With any social problem, like to improve one need to improve all. Like you cannot just like build hospices, then you must also attract people into that kind of like sector. You cannot just have like, I don't know, like more senior activity center without like the number of people going into it, you know? It's like it's a whole rounded thing. Like you cannot just tackle one problem and like leave the other sectors like hanging loosely. It takes both ways. You cannot just like help like with physical infrastructure only. Like, but like the changing mindset is also another story, because like it's hard enough to like get people to all like be anti-discriminatory in the first place. So yeah, I think it's a long way to go for Singaporeans, especially since we are not yet like, I feel like we know that we're aging, but we're not yet scared of it. Like we're not yet like the problem is not pressing enough in front of our eyes to see that in the future like there's going to be too much like for us to handle.
In an effort to curtail the impending problems of an aging population, the Singapore government has ironically reduced the elderly to harmful stereotypes that fail to recognise the dignity of retaining autonomy. Moreover, while the government has done much to provide for the financial needs of the elderly, more still needs to be done to aid their physical and emotional needs. That being said, it is difficult for policies and infrastructure to be completely inclusive, and perhaps home-based hospice care is the sweet middle ground. with government limitations, it's perhaps then even more crucial for the community to step up to this role and ensure that they better understand the elderly, so that the elderly retain their right to age as they wish.